Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome to another Meander file. These are mini time-lapse episodes that sit in between our full MeanderVille episodes. Those of you who don't know, MeanderVille is my sort of highly themed, highly budgeted, master-planned park in Planet Coaster 2. And this one ties into the Sorcery Pack. Thank you to Frontier for letting me get a bit of an early go at this. So I've got this ready for you on the day of release. And I'll be honest with you, I had a lot of thoughts about what I wanted to do with the Sorcery Pack. The scenery itself is really great, and I'm really happy about it, and the rides for the most part are awesome as well. I'm not really a coaster builder. I'm not very good at it. There will obviously be coasters in this park, but they'll definitely be sort of brought in with we'll bring in outside contractors for that kind of thing. And then the flat rides, there's one that's just like a big outdoor swing thing, which is fine, and then the other one is the flying theatre, which is actually really good, and I am going to be building that in MeanderVille as part of our Arabian Nights type area, and there'll be a video on that tomorrow or the next day or something. I don't know. I've kind of hit this Sorcery DLC pretty hard. But I wanted something that really sort of showed off the scenery as it is meant to, the Sorcery DLC as it's intended. And one thing I've always wanted to do for MeanderVille is a dark ride that isn't spooky. This is something that you are starting to see a little bit more now, and you do, personally I feel like you notice them more in Europe. These sort of just very highly themed dark rides that have a little bit of a narrative, but they're not just straight up haunted houses or derisions of haunted houses. The gold standard for these, in my opinion, is Symbolica at Efteling, a ride I haven't been able to do myself yet. I would love to visit Efteling one day. I'm thinking about maybe doing it for my 40th, going back to Europe and doing some of the European parks. I don't know whether we can make that work financially, we'll have to see. But I love watching videos of this place. I actually adore it. It's a big inspiration for MeanderVille, both in its sort of style and just sort of vibe and theme. I adore the place. Can't wait to go one day. But Symbolica is it's actually a I can't think what the proper name for it is now. It's one of those. It's a trackless dark ride system. It's similar to Ratatouille, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway, Mine Train, the Beauty and the Beast ride somewhere. Disney have started using these a lot now. Symbolica uses one as well. We do have one of them in the game, these trackless dark ride systems, but it's a little limited in what you can do with it. So the big sort of key factor for these things is that because they're not on a track, you can do things that you couldn't normally do with a tracked ride. You can have them sort of overlap each other, you can have them cross each other, you can have them move in a train but then split off and sort of park up in different areas for things. So if you think of like Rise of the Resistance, they can separate and go into the drop pods. In Ratatouille, they go into the little alcoves where you can see underneath and you watch a video screen. And they aren't really able to do that kind of thing with the ones in game, even though they are trackless in their look. They are still on a track. It really nice to see some more options. I don't know how difficult that would be to code, though. I imagine it's quite tricky to make that work and then make it usable for players. So anyway, all that is a very long way of saying that I really wanted to do an Omnimover because these are new to Planet Coaster 2. These weren't in the first game. Again, I'm a big fan of these. The Haunted Mansion being the most famous one, perhaps, but I've ridden a few of these over the years in various places, and I thought, well, let's just combine the two: the cool new track system from Planet Coaster 2 and the cool new scenery pack from the Sorcery Pack DLC, and make a sort of Symbolica / Haunted Mansion hybrid. And that's kind of what we're coming up with here. We're going to call it Astralore, which doesn't really mean anything other than like Astra is space and lore is story, and it means as much about as Symbolica does, to be honest with you. It's just a cool sounding magic name, and it isn't going to sit in one of the themed areas. It is just going to be sort of separate on its own as part of the entrance area where we have the carousel and the chair swing. So it's just going to have sort of a generic magic-y vibe. Using the exterior will replicate a lot of what we've already done in the park, and sort of lean into that sacred geometry and that sort of thing. To be honest with you, it will probably look quite similar to Symbolica. I think the exterior of that is beautiful, but I have found that with the gift shops and the restaurants and with the flat rides, the inside out approach is 100% the way to go. So we are going to build a complete interior, then we're going to cover it in a big box, then we're going to make the front of the box look nice. That's basically how we're going to be doing this now, because trying to do it the other way around is nigh on impossible, to be honest with you. This is definitely the way to go. You'll see here, once I'm happy with the space, the last thing I do will add a ceiling to this area, but definitely the last thing you want to do, because once that's done, it starts to become really tricky putting in the floors and the bits of scenery on the floor and what have you. The camera gets in the way a lot. Anyway, let's talk about what we're actually building then. This first room is not actually the first room. It's actually going to be the third show scene you see in the ride, but it's probably the sort of the main one, arguably. It's the one that definitely leans the most into Symbolica, and the one that sort of, I don't know, with these things, I always like to try and do a bit of a palette to work from. With the main street area, it was the carousel. With the pirate area, it was the show building for the pirate ride. I like to try and just with Keladin, it's that the magic carpet ride that you can go underneath. I like to try and just get one thing that I'm just then happy about to work from. And for this ride, it was that interior there that, like I say, very much leans on the first room of Symbolica's ride with the wizard there. Other than that, it's kind of just my own thing, and I just kind of wanted to get a lot of the sorcery pieces in. So you'll see there we went through and added all of those awesome pots and jars and potions and what have you. And then here I wanted to do a room that's a little bit like some of the Symbolica stuff where they look out over a balcony. There's going to be a balcony scene later. I'm actually going to try and build a miniature scene like the one with the fairies in Symbolica. This one I wanted to use screens, and I don't really know what made me think of just doing a storm scene, but I just thought that would be quite cool. So this is going to be one of those rides that kind of has a loose narrative. So the first scene here is going to be the entrance to the wizard's castle, so to speak. Then the next scene we're going to do a corridor sort of moving through the rooms, and then the next sort of 3 or 4 scenes will be various rooms in the castle, the first one being the observatory there that we built. I'd also like to have a greenhouse that's sort of similar to Symbolica's greenhouse with the whale animatronic. Whether we do a whale animatronic, I don't know. I'm still sort of feeling that one out. I would like to do, like I say, a balcony scene that looks out over a miniature landscape. And then I'd like to do a sort of library slash tunnel scene. Those the scenes where you go through a tunnel and the tunnel's rotating and it makes you feel like you're rotating. It's quite common in haunted houses. I want to do one of those that sort of looks a little bit like a library, perhaps. And then we kind of run out of space. Weirdly, this ride, I think it can have 99 seats, basically, or 99 haunts, for want of a better word. So if you make the track any longer, you just end up with a gap, and it kind of sucks. So the original plan probably was to have another room or two, but I'm actually going to squeeze it down a little, because I want the Omnimover to be really an Omnimover. I want it to actually, fill in and have no gaps. So we make it as small as we can, and it leaves us with these 3 showrooms that we do today, and then an additional 3 showrooms, I think, as well. So we're going to have 6 scenes altogether. So it's perhaps a shy on the short side, but I think it works, and I think we'll probably look at doing another trackless dark ride somewhere else in the park where we can perhaps use some other ideas that we haven't been able to do here. So yeah, there's that first scene. Then it uses those curved billboard screens, and then I found some royalty-free footage of a storm, made it into a loop, and then made a second loop from the same footage that's on a different time, so you don't get the same, you don't see the same screen in both of the windows. Basically, you get it is the same footage, but because of the offset of the billboard and the timing, it just looks like a storm, like a rolling storm with the thunder going across. And then we also add some lights on a sequencer, so the whole room sort of flashes occasionally as well. Here then, I don't know, I just needed a thing. I put a frog down. There's going to be a few moments where you're just sort of moving from one scene to another, and they're going to be relatively plain. They probably would just have maybe a little statue on the wall. One thing I would really love, and I know I keep going on about this, if you watch my scenery video that also went out today, I mentioned this, just a couple of Halloween things, a couple of pumpkins, a couple of bones. The one thing I really want to see return from the Spooky Pack, or at least a new version of from the Spooky Pack, is books. and picture frames. They were both so very useful because they're so generic items that you can just use in lots of different areas. And like I say, I do want to do a library scene in this, so that I may hold off in case we possibly get some books. If not, we can probably produce them out of art shapes. You'll see in that main room there, I was doing big piles of papers using the what's one of the marketplace decorations. I think it's meant to be like a folded sheet. It kind of gives the impression of folded papers. You can definitely do books. There'll be art shapes or other pieces to use that make look like a book spine, but how much easier is it if there's just one in the game already that we can just use? But yes, picture frames, that was the other thing I would do. If I had picture frames, those little sort of gaps in between the main scenes, I would just put a picture frame there with like a funny picture in, like a slightly changing picture. Again, this isn't meant to be a scary ride necessarily. You know, obviously there are sort of creepy elements to dark rides in general, I think, and obviously the room we're building here, if you can guess what it is a little bit more sort of straight up spooky, I suppose. But again, I'm not really going for a haunt. This is meant to be a haunted house. This is meant to be a dark ride through a sorcerer's palace, a sorcerer's keep that is interesting and magical and explorative, but not straight up scary. Saying that, there is a new feature in the update 7 that came alongside this DLC that allows you to place gridded pieces on a 3-axis rotation. So that means we can have these floor pieces slightly angled. And that said to me, well, let's try and do a fake corridor, just like the Haunted Mansion has one of these with the floating candelabra, which is what we're going to be making here. There's also one in the Tower of Terror uses this effect to show the corridor where the electric ghosts hang out. I had a lot of fun building this, and the theming here, the sort of interior build we will use later on as well, with this sort of lime plaster and these sort of wooden features. The other thing I'm using new here is this new radial piece. It sort of you can see there, puts it on a little wobble, so we just hide that underneath and put it down. Now, in real life, this probably just hangs from a bit of string or something, or the one at Tower of Terror uses the Pepper's Ghost. So I placed that piece of glass there. It's fake realism because the thing is actually just floating there, right? Like, you know, I'm sort of taking a slight liberty here. Its piece is just floating, but I've added the glass just so as it kind of helps explain. I don't know. You can understand what I'm trying to say there. I'm making it look worse than it can because I want that sort of element of realism instead. So there we go. We're finishing off this now with a bit of carpet. Again, I think it works quite well. Like the corridor is fairly long itself, but I definitely get that impression that it looks longer, to be honest with you. And then the last thing we do is add some fake stairs down this one side that you would see a little. But then I am going to try and do a workable interior on this. Now, I'm no expert at this kind of thing. I certainly don't really have a sort of master plan when it comes to the sort of workable interior of this. I'm going to do the show scenes, and then whatever's left I will make into something of an interior. So here, the idea is just where the sightline ends, the theming ends. So here you'll see there's going to be a door here that will have a fire exit. I used the awesome fire exits that I found from the workshop. I think they're by Strack. I'll put a link in the description to them. So there are going to be fire exit signs that you can occasionally see, because that happens even in the best theme parks in the world, even in the most themed rides in the world. You can occasionally see a fire exit sign. I kind of dig that, and it's the sort of thing that I want to try and replicate. It's that, I've said it before, it's that implied realism that I really enjoy getting. And I'm going to try and make it so that all these bits here we're doing with stairs and back doors and what have you, and railings there, you just don't see them when you're actually on the ride. And perfect timing, here we are on the ride. This piece of music is from in-game. It's their new Sorcery Pack music. There's 4 new tracks and they're all awesome. This one is perfect for what I want to do. I really enjoyed this first scene. I do think it needs a little bit more movement. I don't want a full-on animatronic here, but I might put all of those pots onto that new radial thing so they sort of have a little wobble around a bit. I think that might work quite well. Again, here, just needs something, little statue or even just a light or something to look at. There's possibly going to be a voiceover for this ride as well. Sort of, you know, a Haunted Mansion style. Welcome, and look at all the funny rooms. I love the sort of skew-if angle here that you get from the track moving down to the candelabra there. And then we start coming into the room. You do get a little peek, maybe a little early. I'm not really too sure what to do about that. I think we kind of had to deal with it. Maybe a curtain could go behind that there. We could look at doing something like that to hide it a little bit, because I do like the idea of just getting this slight jump scare of the suit of armour there. And then the sign here brings us into the observatory. These signs will go throughout the place as we enter each of the rooms. And here we have our awesome new mascot. So yes, this is an animatronic. This is a mascot, and he's on. He's in sandbox limbo. He's happy enough to just stand there forever and keep doing his animation. But I really wanted to use him here because I think he looks very similar to the wizard from the Symbolica ride, and that was what really gave me the inspiration. I saw him and I was like, oh, that looks just like the dude. I forget his name. He does have a name in the Symbolica ride. I forget what it is though, sorry. So I instantly just put him. He's just on a piece of path there, and he's just paid very well, and he's in a sandbox road, and he'll happily stand there. So he's not an animatronic. He's actually a mascot, but here he's playing the role of a very, very good animatronic. And then this room, you just get a nice little look around, and then there's the paper there sort of wobbling a little using that new radial thing. Really happy with how this turned out. I'm looking forward to doing more. I've already started working on more. Honestly, this sorcery pack has given me an absolute kick up the butt to get more stuff done, so there'll be more coming to the channel very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Until the next one, be good.